Hogstye.
Hey everybody, and welcome to the Hog's Eye. It is your host Alex, and we have Steve and we have Dave. Washington gets the sweep of the Giants. It's been a long time since we last swept the Giants in a season, so that we got that going for us. Whoop-de-doo. I think we all saw this coming though. The Giants are a mess of a team on offense, not as bad on defense. They gave us a good game defensively. It felt like. Um, so there was that.
Well,
But yeah,
we all predicted it. But I mean, these NFC East games, we'll get into the game here, but these NFC East games are always kind of wild. And the
right.
Giants always seem to play well against Washington on top of
Yes,
that.
2011, the last year that Washington swept the Giants, by the way. So it's been a long time. I just looked it up. So
It was
yeah,
eon ago.
it was before
Seems like
RG3. We didn't even sweep them in the RG3 season,
Yeah, right.
which is surprising.
That was the year, but what'd you say, 2011? So that's
Yep.
the year before him?
Yep.
That was Sexy Rexy, right?
Sexy Rexy. Yep. It might have been John Beck because I think we were going back and forth.
Maybe.
Yeah. But let's get into the game. I had
You're just
to.
not going to vamp at all. There's just nothing you want to talk about.
I mean, do you want to talk about me going on jury duty? Like, there's not.
Let's hear about jury duty. Did you get presented to a jury? Was it a nice, fun case?
I did not get presented to a judge. I just sat there for 4 hours in an uncomfortable chair. Can we upgrade these waiting pool rooms? Like,
Why? Why should we spend money on juries?
Just to make it a little more comfortable.
Who cares?
It's like
if the
80
jury's
degrees. You're sitting in a chair that's awful. And there's like 400 people in there. It's awful.
But you're gonna make the District of Columbia spend money for no reason.
It's for a good reason. It's for positive morale.
Who cares if you have positive morale? Do your job.
Come on, Alex. You actually believe that any state is going to actually care about its people enough to give them a comfortable chair, a TV to watch that they don't have on loop what your responsibilities are for like 3-4 hours. You know what I mean? I mean, it's quality time. It's quality time according to them.
Yeah. I mean, look, the people who
waste
also
money on a chair, for goodness sakes.
I will say they weren't old chairs. At least they seemed like they were like in the last 5 years.
What are you whining about then?
I want a sofa chair. I want a lazy boy for everybody. A lazy boy for everybody. That's my campaign slogan if I run for mayor.
Well, and then you can fall asleep during the trial and just guess.
No, not in the courtroom, in the waiting area.
Well, if you get a big nap in the waiting area, you're going to be tired and everything when you go into the trial, and you're going to sleep through that too.
I think if you get a nap, you're not going to be tired.
But if you really go to sleep and you get woke up that,
and then you get woken up, yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I got you.
Stay with me.
Your REM cycle gets impacted.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, we shouldn't be allowed to have any legal stuff happen like within a week of daylight savings because that also messes with people too much.
Well, I mean, coming from a non-military, Dave and I, who have both traveled worldwide, are used to time shifts. So it's only the weak-minded that are, that like Alex.
Well, I'm not speaking for myself. I'm speaking for the dozen or so people that I saw show up late.
The weak-minded. There you go.
Yeah. I mean, look, we pick from everybody, right?
Do I sound like enough of an elitist yet, or can I really lean into it more?
Yeah, I mean, I think you're leaning into it your normal amount.
I'll do better next time. Sorry. I thought I was trying to go overboard, and it didn't work.
You didn't go overboard enough. What you need to do is get rid of juries. That would be.
Just let me decide.
Leads.
I can solve most of these in 10 minutes. Just give me the facts.
Most of the court cases.
Yeah.
No, man. You know what? Let's make it fun. Let's just institute the purge. That's it. Done. Over. One night.
The Purge.
The Purge. You've seen that movie, The Purge, right?
I've seen. I've seen all the Purge. Well, all but the last Purge movie. I didn't see the last one.
I'm trying hard not to tell my Purge story here because. I can't. I'm gonna have to tell you guys off the air.
Okay.
I've got a Purge story, believe it or not.
Wow. That I didn't expect.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
I can't tell. I wish I could, but I can't.
All right. Well, why don't we talk about the game that happened?
Which is also
Steve,
kind of purge-like.
It was very purgy in that, we have purged the Giants from the regular season as far as them being meaningful in any way. So why don't you give us some numbers, Steve?
All right, numbers. Jane Daniels was 15 for 22 for 209 yards. That's, I believe, is 68% completion percentage. I believe 2 touchdowns. Quarterback rating of 128.8. Chris Rodriguez was the leading rusher, 11 for 52 to 4.7 yards per carry. Austin Ekeler was 11 for 42, 30.8 yards per carry with a long of 20. Jane Daniels was 8 for 35. Jeremy Nichols, 8 for 20. The leading receiver was Noah Brown, 5 receptions, 60 yards. Olamide Zacchaeus, 2 for 48. Austin Ekeler, 3 for 41. De'Ami Brown, 1 for 24. Terry McLaurin, 2 for 19. Ben Sinnott, 1 for 12. Zach Ertz, 1 for 5. Jeremy Nichols had 1 target that failed. Leading tackle was Jeremy Chin with 13 tackles, 7 solo. Bobby Wagner with 7. That is defense. Austin Ekeler had a kick return. I usually skip the kick returns. One kickoff, 1 return for 35 yards. Austin Seibert, 2 for
that. Yay.
Yeah,
Nice.
Austin Seibert, 2 for 2. Tress Way had 2 punts this time. Got used a little bit, 109 yards. For the Giants, Daniel Jones was 20 for 26, 174 yards. Quarterback rating 119.7, 2 touchdowns. Tyrone Tracy was the leading rusher, 16 for 66, 4.1 yards to carry. Daniel Jones was 7 for 54. Devin Singletary was just 7 for 33. Receiving wise, Blake Neighbors was the leading receiver, 9 for 59. Theo Johnson was next, 3 for 51. Is there anything else interesting in here? Eric Gray had 4 kickoff returns, 4 for 104 yards. That's kind of interesting. Yeah, and that's it. That's for stats for this week.
So statistically, not a day that really wows you. I mean, Jane Daniels had decent numbers. He looked healthier than he did last week. So I think the rib thing is subsiding pretty well for him. But nothing explosive. Like he had a couple of runs that, he got out of bounds for again. Like he's not trying to make those big plays on the running game. I think he's kind of learned his lesson the hard way there, it looks like.
I mean, from my perspective, it was kind of an off day for the team, sort of generally. And I thought, and in spite of the fact they had 128.8 rating, which is great, I thought he was not sort of up to some of the standards we've seen before necessarily. And I think they were probably intentionally keeping him from rushing too much, which is that was a positive thing.
Right.
But what's a testament to the strength of the team, especially the offense, is in spite of what it kind of looked sloppy, a little bit not explosive as normal, they still won this game and still put up 27 points.
Yeah.
I mean, if the Giants had been a better team, it would have been another story. But, they weren't, and you play who's in front of you. So that was kind of my offensive thoughts just generally.
Dave?
Well, if you could have not muted yourself before you started talking, it would help.
Yeah. Uh-oh. I think Dave's having a technical issue.
Dave's having technical issue. Why don't you give your thoughts, Alex, while Dave figures out his technical issue?
Yeah. So, Dave, why don't you log out and log back in, and we'll see if that takes care of your mute issue. My quick thought. First off, as I told you guys before, I had to go to my grandmother's 90th birthday, which was during the game, and I'm family comes first, and she only gets one 90th birthday. So I did sneak away for a few minutes because it was in a restaurant, and I just sat in the hotel bar to watch that drive at the 2-minute end of the half where Terry caught the touchdown, the fade. They looked really crisp in that drive, and
that was a great pass too.
Yeah, it was a great play. It's funny, Terry, quiet day, just 2 touchdowns on 2 catches. He didn't really put up big numbers outside of the 2 most important scores. Yeah, man. But it just seemed, I thought it was interesting, one, how much the Giants stuck to running the ball early. I think that was they clearly came in with a plan to beat Washington that way offensively. And it looked effective at first. I don't know why they kind of got away from it in the second half, which I thought was odd.
I don't know. It's my fear, and I put this in the game preview, was that there would be a bit of a come down as a result of the just unbelievable finish to the Bears game. Because you see how many times have we seen this happen? Just generally speaking, not necessarily just to Washington. Washington didn't usually have fantastic finishes, but you have a play like that, and then you're playing a team that's clearly a lesser team. A lot of times you kind of have a stumble, and I thought they kind of. I mean, again, it's a testament to the quality of the team, the offense at least. That their stumble was still pretty good, And I mean, some of the, you could argue about the play calling and whatnot. Yeah, I get it, but go ahead.
I'm not mad about the play calling overall. Like offensively, they were a little more conservative. I think that they're trying to avoid Jayden Daniels getting hurt as part of it. They didn't allow, you know what? The one thing we didn't mention early, in the numbers, 0 sacks, and the Giants are a very good sacking team.
Yeah.
Like I think the Giants had the highest sack rate in the league going into the game, which is crazy when you look at how bad they are as a roster.
They've got some talent in their defensive front, though.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They might have one of the best, if not the best, defensive tackle in the league at this point. But they kept Jayden Daniels clean. They didn't let him get a lot of unnecessary hits running the ball. Like I think there was a game plan for that with Cliff Kingsbury here.
Well, yeah, and I'd also point out, and Dave, if we ever get Dave back, he's having technical issues. Dave pointed this out in his column, but Cornelius Lucas was out, sat this game out. Brandon Coleman had his first start because so far he's been doing, about half or so of the game. They've been splitting time with, and so I thought he did very well. I mean, yes, I've been cautious. I think of him, and not just solely because he's been the third round pick, but I just think at that level, you just can't walk in and assume these guys are going to be starter quality at that level. And that was kind of been my fear with him. But he's done pretty well, and I thought he handled himself in a pretty tough situation very well.
All right, Dave is back on, and his mute issue is fixed. It only took like 5 computer reboots and divine intervention from the Pope, but we got him. So Dave, what?
Well, don't forget the Dummies 101 book for actually operating computers and Skype and stuff like that.
Right.
Which I read down and backwards.
It's either that or the Pope. One of those two things is true.
It's something like that. Whatever. All I know is I had issues, and hopefully I'm good now.
By the way, we'll get Dave's thoughts on the offense, but did you guys see the thing about the Pope tweeting about Saints, and he used hashtag Saints, and it's the NFL's hashtag by accident? It was very funny.
No, but I don't pay attention to X, and especially not the Pope tweeting on it. Why is the Pope on social media?
Well, I assume it's not actually the Pope on social media, that he has a guy, some lesser cardinal,
I mean, is he doing 60-second funny memes or what? I mean,
We need Pope memes. No, that's right, when Dave. He gets on TikTok.
All right.
Give us your thoughts on Washington's offense, because we talked in your absence.
Yes. Well, I think the one thing that I took away from it is something that we need to start kind of reassessing in terms of what this offensive line group has been like, because going into this game, the Giants had a sack rate of 13.31%, averaging almost 4.5 sacks per game. And Jayden Daniels was not only hardly pressured, he had one quarterback hit against him, and he was pretty calm in the pocket all day. And you also had Brandon Coleman, who went up against Brian Burns almost the entire game. You're talking about an all-pro edge rusher who's having a very good year, and he held his own the entire game. I mean, I think this offensive line unit, whatever it was that they did, or whatever it is that what's the name of the offensive line coach that we have again?
The Giants' old O-line coordinator.
Right.
I remember his name. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was I mean, when specifically the organization, Bobby Johnson, by the way.
Yes.
But the organization was attacked because this man was not successful with the O line in New York and his stint, I think, in New England. I think he was prior to that for a little bit. So it was like, why would you bring a guy in like that?
He was attacked. That includes by us.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
I will
absolutely.
fully admit. I was
number one.
Nicely.
You were, yeah. All three of us were.
Yes.
I even have a receipt in terms of a column written that you can actually read about me.
Yeah, I know.
It's
you
there.
You went on and on about it at one point in time.
I will say, Bobby Johnson, we were wrong, and I guess we owe you an apology there.
Yes, because I've been hypercritical of his offensive line all off season. I've been hypercritical after we bypassed the offensive lineman until the third, fourth round, but apparently I'm sitting where I'm supposed to be sitting, behind the mic, pretending to be a GM, while there's an actual GM actually doing the responsibilities that he's supposed to do, because he's doing a much better job than what I'm doing. Because let's be honest, I mean, Brandon Coleman may never be Trent Williams. I get that. Brandon Coleman may never be a top 5 left tackle in the league. I get that. But he's starting to make a case on being considered a future left tackle for this team if we can't find someone that's a prototypical franchise guy. We have a guy there I think you can definitely start there going forward so far. So I've been very impressed with that.
And I agree. And while you're out, I had similar comments.
Yes, Dave. We were talking about the O-line a little bit and their play. Right. The one thing that does surprise me is how well the Giants were kind of able to keep Terry McLaurin in check outside of the 2 touchdowns. That was a very quiet day for McLaurin overall.
Well, the other thing that was that Washington's run game wasn't at its normal 2024 level of efficiency. Yeah, it's probably, I mean, Brian Robinson continues to prove me wrong. He's not there, and all of a sudden they're averaging 3.9 yards per carry. Now right. Chris Rodriguez did pretty well on his own.
Yeah, he had a good day, really.
Yeah. 4.7 yards per carry. Austin Eckler, not so much. Jane Daniels, 8 carries. Again, I'm convinced that that was intentional. He didn't run much. Had to be.
I think so.
And that's a wise, smart thing to do. So as a team, the running game wasn't great against a team that doesn't have great run defense. And what's the X factor? Brian Robinson.
The Eckler thing, I think, with Robinson being out, they were asking Eckler to do what Eckler doesn't do very well, which is run a lot more inside stuff. When we talk about Eckler, I really don't want to see him between the tackles. The whole goal is to get him out in space. That's why he's a passing threat. That was
supposed to kind of be Chris Robinson's role, I
right,
think.
Exactly. But, he's a smaller guy. That's
Rodriguez, I meant. Sorry.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, but they used Eckler a lot more between the tackles, which I think hurts his average. And I get it, you needed to do some of that just because Robinson is out, and you got to kind of keep the Giants honest. But, that does kind of make it trickier. McNichols is kind of fallen off, hasn't he, overall?
Well, I mean, he had 8 carries to 20 yards.
Yeah, nothing to write home about.
No, it's not good. A long of 8, so that's 7 for 12 yards. Which is
even
less
worse.
than it's less than 2 yards a carry.
Right.
Well, I mean, there's a couple of games that McNichols had in a year. I mean, they were more of an aberration anyway. He's that typical journeyman running back. He's not going to give you anything real spectacular or special or whatnot. But it's but as far as like with Jaden Daniels in this game, I think the one thing that I did know, I think his ribs were bothering him enough to where I think his ball placement was still a little off. Yeah. So I think they did a good job in really managing him, keeping a lot of the shorter pass plays and and keeping him from, like you said, Steve, from running and whatnot. But whatever they did in terms of to neutralize that pass rush and to keep the ball moving effectively as they did, I mean, they were able to do that with Jaden Daniels at his lowest right now. You know, it's kind of a testament to this offense when Brian Robinson's in there. You know, Jaden Daniels healthy. This offensive line starting to come together the way we're looking at it. I mean, there's a lot to be optimistic on this offense. I'm glad they didn't go after a receiver because you don't want to mess with that chemistry they have going on. You know, there's just a lot of things are working right now, and so.
Well, I think it's like I said before. I mean, I agree. You know, the idea that an off day could still look pretty good is encouraging for the team generally. But I do think it seemed like, and listen, 15 for 22 isn't terrible. You know, again, that's like 60. I think it was 68% completion percentage.
Right.
So that's certainly acceptable. But I thought Daniels was a little off in comparison to himself. I think that's the way to put it. And I think it was pretty clearly and obviously. I mean, the obvious correlative factor would be the ribs.
Yeah.
You know, and I thought it did affect some of his passes. I mean, and some of them were one of them was high. You know, if you remember, and I think that's sort of the mark of someone who is having rib problems. And I thought there were one or two times when his reads weren't maybe quite, you know, as sharp as they were before. It's not a complaint. It was just, you know, not quite up to his own lofty standards.
Right.
And you know, we're saying this. I still think he'll probably win Rookie of the Week again this week.
I do not think he'll win Rookie of the Week this week.
I mean, I'm looking at the other people on there. Not a whole lot that impresses me. I guess Rome Odunze getting 5 receptions for 140 yards, maybe, but
yeah,
like no one blew up this week.
No, you know? But Daniels didn't either, though.
Yeah.
Well, but if Tyrone Tracy didn't get it for having 145 rush week the week prior, and you still got to Jaden Daniels, Rome Odunze, it almost doesn't matter what he did. It's almost like it's.
I mean, Dave, be fair. I mean, the week before, Jaden Daniels threw a Hail Mary to win a game.
Right.
You're gonna get the Rookie of the Week award when you do that.
When you make a miracle play, yes.
Yeah, I mean, come on.
That's true. I get that, but
right. There was no miracle play this week, though.
No.
And the one thing that helps him is Drake May was awful, yet he's on the list. Cameron Kitchens is on there with 3 tackles. He has 2 interceptions. Maybe he'll get it. A 2 interception day is a pretty good day for any rookie. And one was a TD. So
I think what I was saying about Drake May is proven to be true, which is he has his moments,
right?
But he's not consistent, and he's not ever going to be consistent. And that's kind of what we've seen of. I mean, it's early, okay. We shouldn't make a judgment about a player's played 9 games, but from what we've seen, that seems to be proving true about him. But that's another topic for another day. But
yeah. We will probably be talking about those guys for years. The 3 quarterbacks, but I think really maybe at some point after the end of the season we'll do like an extensive on it. You know what I mean?
We'll have nothing but time.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, maybe that's an off-season article I'll do. I'll do a comparison of all 3.
Right. We can do it in that bye week before the Commanders are in the Super Bowl.
Now the trick is, are you going to remember that you committed to doing it?
No.
To doing what? You're doing what?
See, you've forgotten already. It's been 10 seconds.
Bad jokes. By the way, we had a great bad joke before the show that we're not going to do on the show. But
you're going to tease people like that?
No, they can't. They don't get to hear it. It's just our joke.
It was organic.
It was so bad. Steve's eyes rolled.
It's just that you're going to be a tease. Okay? That's not fair. That's really not fair to the people.
Oh no, I thought his eyes rolled because he was laughing so hard.
I know. I rolled my eyes because we're teasing the audience, and there's going to be no payoff. You just there's a funny joke, too bad, and we're going to move on.
It was not off color. Well, I will say that no one said anything.
I would say it, but I don't remember exactly what the punchline was.
Yeah.
What was it? What was the punchline?
I don't remember either. That's the problem.
Then why did you mention it?
Because
let it go.
Vamping.
You had said when we were talking about before the show that we were going to talk the trade, or we're going to talk Giants, and you said, well, maybe we should knock out the Giants first, And that's where Alex said, well, I think we already did. And that's where I came out and said, yeah, because we swept them, remember? It was that sequence.
See, I'm smarter than the average bear. I knew one of you, if I just said it, I knew one of you would blurt it out. So there you go. Now the audience knows the joke. Funny.
It was.
And you know, Steve, nobody believes you right now. You know that, right?
Right.
They should. Do they not know me? This is exactly what I did, and it worked.
It's very dry. It's a very dry joke. It's fine.
It was funny organically.
It was funny organically. That's why I didn't also want to really do the joke on the show. But now we're sidetracking on humor, and let's talk about something else. Let's talk about.
We need to get into the Washington defense because I think that's.
Yeah, speaking of funny, let's talk about that face of Daniel Jones. I'm sorry.
I mean,
it is amazing how Daniel Jones, if he played Washington 17 times a year, he would be the league MVP probably.
He'd be first ballot Hall of Fame. He'd be first ballot Hall of Fame if he played us his entire career.
I mean, he wasn't that good, and you got to understand that. I think the Giants were aided tremendously by the run game, and you brought this up in your column. I said it in my column. They did a poor job against the Giants' run game, and they really only got let off the hook because the score got out of hand, and they needed to kind of resort to an aerial attack more. But I mean, 31, in total, 31 for 164 yards, 5.3 yards per attempt. And that's not good. I mean, Tyrone Tracy, over 4 yards per attempt. Devin Singletary, 4.7. And again, this is not a great running team. It continues to be a problem. I think that we'll get to corner here, obviously, in a minute, but beyond corner, they've been absolutely atrocious all year against the run. And if you want some numbers, I can do that because that's just the kind of person I am. So, Washington has given up a collective 5.1 yards per carry, which is tied for 31st in the NFL. And that's a well-earned thing. And granted, the Giants didn't beat that, but the Giants also stink against the run, or in the run game.
Right.
And they still did pretty good. So I think that was the takeaway for me, was how easily the Giants ran the ball until they gianted and Washington got ahead.
Gianted. They just gianted
kind of a verb. Yeah, I created a verb.
Yeah. And look, I know people, I've heard some people starting to hype up the fact that the secondary or the defense statistically is very good against the pass, but it's kind of one of those misconception things. I think they've been so bad against the run that the pass numbers look good just because
the Giants and Washington is not
teams
that
are run
heavy pass. Okay,
Yeah.
They are opposing quarterback rating against 103.9, which is 28th in the NFL. That's not that great. Completion, you want another one? Completion percentage, 68%, which is 24th. Are they better than against the run? A little bit, but that's not saying anything.
Yeah, it's really not.
No. They're not a good defense.
No, they're still
about the only thing they do well is their pressure rate. The pressure rate, they're ranked. I had it right here in front of me. They're ranked 6th, I believe, in terms of pressure rate this season. At 8 point. You probably have the numbers in front of you. I know I had them here. 8.71, which ranks 6th in the league in terms of pressure rate. So, I mean, in terms of getting to the quarterback and the pressure on the quarterback, they're getting there, but they can't get home because you're not generating the coverage sacks. You're losing discipline, and you're in maintaining the gaps and allowing the quarterback a chance to kind of get up and sneak up to the pocket and dump it off into the second level, which we good linebackers, much better than last year, but in coverage are still weak in that part.
Okay.
So we have a lot of things going on.
So pressure percentage that Dave is citing, pressure percentage, I like this stat too. And what it is if I can move the window around, it's hurries plus knockdown plus sacks per drop back. Okay. And so what that means is Washington is getting a decent amount of those things, but if you break it down farther, so they've got 24 sacks.
Right.
And this is including the Giants game, which is
That's not a terrible number.
no, it's not, and that is 9th in the NFL.
I didn't realize we were that good actually when it comes to
Yeah, and so they're 8th. I'm sorry, they are 9th also in pressure in total pressure percentage. So where they go down, then way down is quarterback knockdowns. That is they're way down in quarterback knockdowns. And so that means they're getting some sacks, but they're not putting consistent pressure on the quarterback.
Right.
That's how I would take that. And so the pressure percentage is boosted a little bit by the sack numbers, but it's dragged down way down by the quarterback knockdown. So they need to work on getting more consistent pressure on the quarterback. That's a long way of saying that. Don't everybody talk at once.
I mean, well, we're going to talk about their trade soon. But they did make a big trade to, bolster that defense there. The one thing that was disappointing, they did not get a shutout out in the first half. They allowed 7 points. It would have been nice to have 3 weeks where the defense allowed nothing in the first half, but c'est la vie. Yeah, I don't know. Like, this is a weird game to me. It almost felt like a letdown because they could have pummeled the Giants if they wanted to.
I told you it was a letdown. I mean, I think it stems from the fact that they had an emotional high against and they traveled to New York where they haven't played well in forever on it. Their quarterback was hurt, and there's a lot of factors, and they had some penalties that hurt and some mistakes and stuff. I think the team this year is good enough that they can play like that and get a win against a lesser team, and that is something that would never have happened in prior years.
Right. Yeah. And also, when you take into account, like you said before, NFC East, a lot of times it almost doesn't matter how good or how bad the teams are when they face each other. It's like the bad teams play up and the good teams play down. They play to a level to where it's a competitive game when it shouldn't be. I mean, we saw that when we played the Eagles twice last year. I mean, we were competitive in most of the games last year when we should have been boat raced off the field in both occasions. But we played them tough. The one game we actually probably could have won, but that just never happened.
The NFC East is weirdly competitive a lot of times.
At least the inter-game stuff is, yeah.
To be honest, I mean, if there's been one team that hasn't been competitive, it's been Washington.
Lately,
not prior to this year.
Yeah. Why don't we just, because I do want to get to the trade.
Can we do game balls real quick then? Are we done? Are we at
let's do game balls, and why don't we move forward? Dave's tech issues also throwing me off on the time. I have no idea what.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not 100% sure where we are either.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Alex, you need to go first. You've been making us go first every week.
All right. I'll go first. All right. On the defense, let's give it to Bobby Wagner on that heads-up play to get the fumble. When Daniel Jones had his little Daniel Jonesy moment of, and threw the ball.
What was the moment again?
That's my Daniel Jones impression apparently now. So we're just gonna go with it. But yeah, that weird. Was it a fumble? Was it a throw? But they counted it, and Bobby Wagner picked that thing up. I guess they couldn't have said it's a score, but it's fine. But good play for Bobby Wagner. I'm sure he kept that ball anyway, but you get a game ball from me too. On offense, I'm gonna go with Rodriguez. You came in, you've been on the bench all year, and you ran angry, and I like that. I've been saying for a while they need a third running back to really make this thing go. And when Robinson's healthy, I'm done with the McNichols thing. Let's go Rodriguez, Eckler, and Robinson for the rest of the season. That's where I'm at.
Y'all know I was touting Rodriguez in the preseason, and
he got quiet.
Yeah, I know.
It took a while, but there he is.
Thought I was going to be wrong on him, but he's coming back. All right,
you're going to be right after all, Steve.
It may be so,
and
which is always the case anyway. So, this is a tough one because again, there's not really too many people that really, really stand out here. I'm going to go kind of by default, Jaden Daniels. I mean, he played through injury. still managed a really high quarterback rating, 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
And I think the team would have been a tougher game with just either Driscoll or Mariota in there. So I'll give it to Daniels. I mean, it's not a performance he's going to ride home to mom about, but he was key to the game. And I'm going to go with Jeremy Chinn by default here for defense because he had 13 tackles, way more than anybody else.
Chinn is becoming a force, man.
Yeah. There you go. So those are my 2.
Well, I'm going to ride the same boat on Jeremy Chinn. He was definitely very effective in that game. He's 13 tackles, and he was definitely over the field. He's definitely coming into his own in his defense, and he fits very well in terms of what Dan Quinn wants him to do. And we'll get more into him a little bit more when we talk about the trade, but that's then. So, but as far as offense, I'm going to go with Brandon Coleman. He allowed 0 sacks, 0 pressure on the side against one of the top pass rushers in the league, and he did most of it by himself. He had very minimal chips. I mean, I think there was one play where Brian Burns actually got a spin to the inside, but luckily for Jaden Daniels, I think it was either a 7-step drop or he felt it and just kind of took an extra couple steps and rolled out of the way of the pressure. Brian Burns never got anywhere near him anyway. So Brandon Coleman gets my game ball for offense.
That's a pretty good call right there. He probably deserves it. Probably better call than Daniels.
Yes.
Too late, Daniels. I can't make it. He just ran away at the ball. I can't get it back from him.
I mean, there's no way you're catching him.
No, I know. I'd have to drive a car to catch him.
Yeah.
Are you gonna get in your little Prius to go get him?
Yeah, that's exactly me. Yeah, that's me.
Right.
I love electric cars. They're just awesome.
Well, Prius is not an electric car; it's a hybrid.
It's same difference, man. It doesn't make a difference.
Well, one's gas, one's electric, but okay, whatever. Let's move on.
One's a hybrid it still is powered in part by electricity. Therefore, I check out.
I mean, so is your car technically. Like all cars have.
No, it's not. No, it's not powered by electricity. It uses electricity generated by the engine. There's a difference.
Fair enough. All right. The big story, though, that we need to talk about with Washington.
Dave's just laughing. We're having this argument about hybrid cars.
Yeah, right.
Let's talk about the trade deadline. There were a lot of trades that were made at the end of the deadline on Tuesday. The Steelers made some big deals that we're going to have to face old Preston Smith, who's moving from Green Bay to Pittsburgh. And they also got, was it Mike Williams, Dave?
Yes, Mike Williams, yes.
Yeah. So that's going to make our day harder when Washington faces those guys. Although, not for nothing, I saw the photo of Preston Smith recently in Green Bay. He's gotten fat. I'm just going to say it. Like,
he's not a cut football player anymore. He's just a fat guy.
I think he ate too much cheese up in Green Bay. Like, he's got a gut that looks like my gut now, and he used to be like, a lean, pass rusher.
Well, I mean, really, if you think about it, what else is there to do in Green Bay in the fall and wintertime? But
I mean, I can think of a couple things, but yes, cheese is among them.
There's not much. Like, it's Green Bay.
Right. I'm with you.
You weren't. You're trying to make a dirty joke. I mean,
I did try to make a dirty joke. I succeeded at making a dirty joke.
Oh, I got it. I just didn't. It took me a second to decide I was going to acknowledge it.
Yeah. But anyway, Preston Smith, you got fat. I'm just going to say it. Chiefs, we didn't really talk about it, but the Chiefs did bring in Hopkins, and there a bunch of moves. Deontay Jones going to the Ravens for nothing. Cam Robinson being traded to the Vikings. But Washington made a big move, and they did not get Jonathan Mingo for a 4th-round pick. That was not them.
That was not them.
That was such a great move by you, the Cowboys. I mean, just brilliant by Darth Vader over there. No,
Darth
Washington.
Vader.
Yeah.
Darth Vader.
Yeah.
Is that what you're calling Jerry Jones now, Darth Vader?
Really, he's probably more the Emperor because he's old and wrinkly and pale. And
he doesn't have half the voice that James Earl Jones does either.
Oh no, Jerry's like this.
He's definitely the Emperor, not Darth Vader.
Yeah. If I had thought about it a little bit,
It was a valiant attempt, though. It was a decent analogy, just almost there.
Oh no, I had to throw out there Snoke. I think I put him go closer to Snoke actually.
See, now you're citing the new trilogy, and that's not good, though.
Yeah. Huh?
You're citing the new trilogy now. That's not good.
Yeah, but you have to understand, Cowboys are not good. They're not like the old trilogy either, right?
I'm gonna vote for Emperor, though. I think Alex has this one.
All right, he's Palpatine. That's what we're going with.
All right, that'll work.
But Washington definitely won the trade deadline. It seems like by getting Marshawn Lattimore from the Saints, 4-time Pro Bowler, 28 years old. The trade was a 3rd, 4th, and 6th for a stud corner and a 5th round pick. That's pretty good. Like, that's fair value in my book. And the best part, they didn't trade their good 3rd round pick that they got from Miami. They traded their lesser 3rd round pick.
Now, wasn't this one? So that is not the Dotson pick then?
No, the Dotson pick was Miami to Philly.
Miami. Yeah. Okay. I thought this was an outstanding trade. They had to make a move like that. They didn't have to do anything. It was very wise to make a move like this, to bring a guy like this in who comes in as instantly the number 1 corner. From a contract standpoint, it's not the worst thing in the world. He does have a pretty large overall number, but all his bonuses stay with the Saints for this year, so his cap hit is super low, and it'll go way up next year. But they have the room to do this next year. But the idea of giving up a 3rd and change, basically, and less than that, really, when you get the 5th round pick back, I think was about as good a deal as they could possibly. Honestly, I don't know why the Saints would want to do it. Really?
Well, because Steve, the Saints are $75 million over the cap next year.
Well, that's a good point. That's a good point. There you go. That's why.
You and I are both kind of cap nerds. Have you sat down and tried to figure out how the Saints can get under the cap yet?
I looked at it at one point in the offseason. I forgot all about it and decided I didn't want to hurt my head.
It hurt my brain a little bit.
Now, before we go on any further in terms of the value of the trade, now Marshawn Lattimore is making, I think, it was $18 million over the next year, and also $18 million against the cap the year after that.
Yep.
Yes.
Now you see how well that Johnny Newton's been playing right now. Daron Payne obviously is Daron Payne. The rest of that tackle group is kind of solidifying itself a little bit more. Do you think that if this continues that trend and Lattimore fits in beautifully, and to keep, I think they're going to keep Lattimore past this year most likely, obviously, but do you think this paves a way for now Jonathan Allen and his big contract to be moved after this year?
No, I don't think so. Necessarily.
You don't think?
No.
I don't think that one is tied to the other. I think they might do that. They would have done that regardless of this trade.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Well, I'm not saying one's tied with the other. I'm just saying now it's like you're sitting in a point where you now have a little more flexibility. You've already addressed your cornerback position. You have other needs to address, and Jonathan Allen just kind of becomes, you're just having, what's the phrase I'm looking for? You have a little bit more than what you need at one position. Mm-hmm. You can probably take that out for, position yourself for a better edge rusher or even a coverage linebacker or something like that. So you're not investing too much money in the defense while you're keeping yourself.
Yeah, but you got to understand something, though. They have a ton of cap space. Not only do they have a ton of cap space, the cap is going to go up 10 to 15 million next year too. Okay. And so they really don't need the space. I mean, they're in a really weird position here. And they only have, where's my number? They've got 156 million in 2025 right now.
Right.
156 million. And the cap this year alone, and remember, it's going to go up. If I can flip down to my bottom line chart.
Is what, around 250 or so, right?
255.
Yeah.
And so you got to think 265, 270. And so they are 120 million ballpark under the cap next year, the probable cap as a ballpark. And so I don't think that one has to do with the other. Now, I think you may be right, and they may get rid of Jonathan Allen because, all three, at least me, I think it seems like we were a bit wrong on Johnny Newton. He's played fairly well. Unbelievably, I was highly critical of the pick. but it's kind of working out, and they may get rid of Allen, but it won't be because of what's his face, Lattimore.
Well, don't forget the premise of that pick is what I don't think we were wrong about. I think they still should have used that focus in other area needs.
Right.
It just turned out that everything seems to be lining up perfectly right now. So it's not that we were making the bad call in terms of criticizing the pick. It's just that everything just seems to be working out. I don't know. It's just kind of
way to rescue us. I like it. We'll go with that.
I think it's logical to say that.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't think Allen and this have anything to do with each other in the end. But the thing I liked the most about this move, as opposed to some of the other names that were out there as far as getting corners, it's not a 1-year deal. This guy's locked into his contract for at least 2 more seasons. If you're going to trade a 3rd-round pick, which in my mind is a pretty valuable pick, I need to make sure we're getting 3-4 years out of the guy. So I was very happy with that part about this as well.
Well, remember what I've always said. I mean, your starters, generally speaking, in the NFL, you're looking at 1st, 2nd, 3rd-round picks, and then after that, you may get lucky. And so, yeah, they're trading a way of starting pick, looking for a starter, and Lattimore is definitely a starter. Yep. They're getting him in his prime. He's 28 right now.
He has a hamstring injury, so he's probably not going to play this week. But
yeah, I mean, that's small potatoes, though. I mean, he's been around a while. I mean, this is season number 8 for him.
I didn't realize he started that young. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, he's 2017. Been to 4 Pro Bowls. Now, I mean, if you want to be fair, okay, let's do. His 3 Pro Bowls were 19, 20, and 21. And so he's had 3 straight years of performance that was not worthy of a Pro Bowl, according to the voters. And
he's also missed time those last 3 years, too.
He's missed a lot of time. That's the other where I was going with it. He 7 games, 10 games, and then he's played, 7 and 9 so far this year. So maybe the Saints see him as kind of a declining asset. Possibly in considering their enormous cap problem, someone they could sacrifice. That doesn't mean he won't work out here. I think he's far better than anybody we have. Don't get me wrong, but I think that's probably what the Saints were thinking.
Yeah, go ahead, Dave.
Well, I think when you look at it, I pulled in the 2022 and 2023 Dallas Cowboys. Because right now we're on pace to blitz anywhere from 165 to 170 total by the end of the year. So this move isn't going to produce us to blitz more, because that's just not what Dan Quinn is all about. He's about getting pressure, yes, of course, because even in Dallas they only average roughly about 165 to 170 in total blitzes in 2022 and 2023. So this isn't going to boost that number any, but what it will help is in 2022, the Cowboys finished 5th with a sack rate of 8.25%, and they were ranked 3rd in takeaways of 1.8. They were top ranked in 2022 in takeaways of 1.8. In 2023, they dropped to 7.9%, and they were ranked. I think it was around ranked like number 12 when they were getting an average of 1.4 takeaways per game. You compare that to what we're doing right now. We have a 6th ranked pass rush and 8.71, but our takeaway rate is only 0.9% or 0.9 per game. So that's under the one where Quinn wants to be when you look at what Dallas is. So now when you bring in Marshon Lattimore, he can lock down the right side as it stands, as what we can look at. So that pushes St. Juice over to the left side, which I think he can manage well. And then you could put Sanders still where he most comfortable, where he belongs, into the slot. And with all that movement right there, you'd be able to lock down the team number 1 receiver. Now you got Jeremy Chin playing more of the natural role that he wants him to be, more into the pocket, more into what we used to call the Buffalo nickel. So he could play more coverage on the tight ends when needed, and he can kind of rush the quarterback and do what he needs to do within that second level of the defense, and you keep your single high safety. And with all of that, which is what Dallas did for those couple of years, They were among the league leaders in not just the pressure rate, but also turnovers, which is why their defense was as good as it was. And that's what I think Dan Quinn wants to get to, and Marshon Lattimore will help get to that. Will he get to that exactly? We'll see.
Well,
But
I mean,
that's also what they want.
He hadn't had a bunch of interceptions recently.
No.
I mean, the high water mark for him was his rookie year, 5 interceptions in 2017. It's kind of been downhill from there. And so I think Washington's kind of banking on him getting back to his old self, new situation, kind of get back to where they know he can be. But there's no guarantee, obviously. I do wonder if – go ahead, because I was going to move on.
Well, keep in mind, though, with that, though, too, is that in Lattimore the last couple of years, the Saints weren't applying the pressure they were doing years before that. So there's only so much he can keep in coverage. If that pressure rate stays, the quarterback doesn't have time to stand in pocket to allow the corner, allow the receiver to get open. And Lattimore should be able to provide that coverage, and where we either get a coverage sack or you get a rush throw and create a turnover potentially. Not necessarily Lattimore getting an interception, but a batted ball can result in a linebacker interception or whatever. You get more distress with the quarterback that way. That's all.
Well, I mean, that's certainly the hope,
Yeah.
And that's the plan. Obviously, I think you're right. One question that's been going through my mind about this is whether Washington views him as being good enough where they will put him in more press man situations, because they put people in press man situations this year that has gone horribly wrong at times.
Yes.
Yeah. And so is Marshon Lattimore just the guy they're kind of going to roll into the mix here and plays, the sort of the same in the same scheme as everyone else, or are they going to use him Darrell Green style or Deion Sanders style and let him take away one particular player? I don't know the answer to this, but that's a question I will be anxious to see. And again, I don't know. I don't think he's going to take the field this week. He may not, but when he gets on the field, I'll be anxious to see that.
I'll be curious about that as well.
Yeah.
Because I think in his prime, he is that guy who just follows the number one. I don't know if he can do that right now, but.
Well, that's my question. That's exactly what I'm asking. In preview of the injury report, he's listed on the injury report as hamstring DNP on Wednesday.
Yeah.
So I think he's going to definitely be out this week, most likely.
Yep. And of course we should talk about this coming game versus Pittsburgh. I know we briefly touched on the fact that they added some good weapons there. This is going to be a tough one, guys, because Russell Wilson, shockingly, is not as washed as we all thought he was.
Well, I think it just goes to show it's a situational thing. I mean, Denver, he went into Denver and they just didn't use him like Russell Wilson needs to be used. And I'm not going to lie to you guys and say I've watched too many Pittsburgh games this year so far, but I do know that Coach Tomlin is an outstanding coach, and he understands far better than any of us will about how to use players appropriately. And there's a reason why he's had one losing season at most.
Yeah.
There's a reason for that. And so he was smart enough to let Justin Fields have a shot. Didn't work out. And now Wilson is on the field. So since we're moving to the Steelers, I do think this is a very tough game. Steelers are first place, 6-2, 3-1 on the road, 2-1 against the NFC. The line as of, by the way, Tuesday was Washington -2.5, which is not a ton at all considering Washington is a home team. That's actually less than the norm. The Vegas typically gives the home team 3 points. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. So my thoughts. Number one, key to the game, they've got to play mistake-free play. This is way too good a team to have a bunch of silly penalties, mistakes, turnovers. We've seen drive-killing mistakes from this team. They cannot have that. Number one. Number two, I think they really need to focus on tight coverage schemes, even if Marshon Lattimore is not out there. Russell Wilson is a former league MVP, Super Bowl champion, who's playing well, and he will burn you if you make a bunch of silly mistakes like we have seen. They did it against the Giants, for example. what's his name, Theo. They gave away a touchdown to the tight end on just a blown coverage. Russell Wilson will kill you on that. He is not Daniel Jones, so I think that is key. Secondary coverage schemes, and the same thing. The last thing for me, I think they have to have a short passing game in here. I think you need to revert to sort of more along lines of what we saw early in the year. The Steelers are a great run defense.
Right.
They also are a great pad. They're a great defense. They're one of the best defenses in the NFL. I don't think they're going to run really well against the Steelers, particularly if Robinson is still hurt or limited at all. And I don't think they're going to get too many blown coverages. So I think you're going to have to rely on screens, short outs, quick outs, keep the chains rolling. I think that is the game plan. So that's this game.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. They've only had one game where they've allowed over 300 yards passing this season so far. Like, this is a very good pass defense, so I would not expect a big day from Daniels in that regard. In fact, they've had multiple weeks where teams didn't even get 200 yards passing. So, like, this is statistically a very good defense. The move to Russell Wilson has made the offense just that much more effective, finally. Yeah, this is just gonna be a tough one, man. It really is. Like, I think you have to be run heavy and you have to play short, like you said, just to kind of keep their offense off the field. In part, like it's gonna be that kind of strategy game. But yeah, this is gonna be a tough one for Washington.
Yeah, as far as Pittsburgh, you got T.J. Watt coming off the edge. You have Joey Porter, who's a lockdown corner, so he's gonna be all over McLaurin all game long. And for those out there say, yeah, but we have Jaden Daniels' legs. Well, guess who the Steelers face twice a year for like the last several years? Probably the best quarterback in the league with his legs. Yeah. So as far as that, I mean,
Lamar Jackson is who he's talking about. People, just
yes, it is. But as far as But as far as offensively against their defense, I think it's going to be a struggle. They got to have the short pass again. They got to find a way of getting the run game going and play off that play action, and that's going to be tough in itself. Defensively is going to be an issue because you got to deal with George Pickens on the outside. Russell Wilson, it's like he's Russell Wilson back there, and Najee Harris will pound the ball and run you over all game long. And we are horrendous against the run. And Najee Harris is great between the tackles. It's going to be a very tough game.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, I think we're all in agreement. Now, just last week, when we did our re-predicting the schedule, we all said this is going to be a loss. So I guess the question is by how much for everybody. And I do think it'll be close. I don't think it'll be particularly high scoring. So I'm going to say it's going to be something like 21-17 type score.
I think it'll be slightly more than that. If you look at the Steelers, the last 3 games have put up a fair amount of points. 32 against the Raiders, 37 against the Jets, 26 against the Giants. So they're starting to score more points. And granted, some of those teams aren't good.
I would argue all those teams aren't good.
Right. Yeah. Pretty true. But they've held their opponents to only the Colts have put up even a significant amount of points, 27 points. So I think this is going to be more along the lines of like, what did you say, Alex?
I was saying 21-17.
I'm going to say 27-24 Steelers.
Okay.
Well, I'm going to be a little optimistic here. I think this game's going to be pretty tight. I think it's going to be pretty close. And I think it's going to take the Steelers down, coming a final drive in the fourth quarter to pull the game out. So I would say probably something along the lines of like a 28-26 type game with a late minute score to put them over top. The Steelers, that is.
How are we getting to 26? 3 field goals? 4 field 26? Goals? What are we doing? Yeah.
Well,
that's an unusual number.
Well, you're going to have a 2-point conversion attempt to try.
Gotcha. All right.
So because you figure they'll be up at 26-20, so they're going to want to, or 26-21, and they'll try to do a 2-point conversion and get up 28-21, something like that.
Gotcha. All right.
So.
Okay, I believe that does wrap us up for the week. If I did my math for when we paused correctly in my head, we are right at an hour. So we will see you guys all next week. By the way, to both you guys, Veterans Day is between now and the next game, so happy Veterans Day to both of you. And other than that, everyone have a good week.
All right. Later.
Bye.
And thank you, Alex.